Democrats were in control of the country, I looked around and said, this is not what I want to be. I want to be a good guy. I want to be a Republican. I didn't like the corruption done in the government. We currently hold the presidency, the Senate, and the House in Washington, D.C. And this race that I'm running is going to boil down to freedom versus oppression. If I were elected and y'all gave me the privilege of going up to Washington, D.C. as senator, first thing I would do is try to repeal the Patriot Act. Give the freedoms back to the people. For some reason, we're not, and he's talking about the data centers. These are not data centers. Make no mistakes, they're not data centers. We should stop calling them data centers. They are totalitarian surveillance centers by our governments. That's what they're going to do. They're going to watch, facial recognition is going to watch every time we move. The cameras are going to be everywhere. Everything we do is going to be watched. Our banking accounts, our social media posts, our travels are going to be watched by these totalitarian surveillance data centers. So we need to get away from that. These are the Republicans that are doing this. And I'm more for the freedoms. And that's why I'm running, is for freedoms. And I've looked at the 3 ways that we must use to be free. We have to be, and they talked about it, food independence. You cannot be free if you cannot feed yourselves. That's number 1. If you look at China, look at Russia, and look at Ireland, they lost 100 million people collectively to letting the government and the elites control their food supplies. We cannot do that. And unfortunately, up in Washington, D.C., our federal monetary system, it has created a system where the same people that control our foods and our food supply also control our medical industrial complex. So the foods that they're giving us that are making us sick we're being treated by the same people that own both companies, that they're treating us and for the diseases that are making us sick, not healing us, they're treating us. They're making money on both ends. We can't do that. Number 2, one thing we have to do after the foods is education. We cannot be free unless we turn around our education. Thomas Jefferson said, if an ignorant country and a free country is what never was and never will be. Our schools, and you can look this up, it's not conspiracy, were taken over by the Rockefellers 100 years ago, designed to give us complicit workers, not critical thinkers. We have to get away from that. And the best way to do it is, Ben Franklin, he said that only the virtuous can be free. And all the great thinkers throughout history, if you want to have a successful life, you have to be virtuous. That's number 1. We don't teach our kids virtues. And Ben Franklin had a course that he developed when he was 20 years old, sailing back from England, on virtues. He wanted to be the most virtuous man in the world. Well, none of us are Christ, and we figured that out later. You can't be, we're not Jesus. And he came up with a little program where he had 13 virtues. He wrote them down, and then once a week, every week, at the end of the day, he would say, did I live up to that virtue? And then yes or no, and if why or why not. And then next week he'd go on to the second, and we were 13. And he did this program for most of his life. In the last 13 weeks, at the end of 13 weeks, he would start over, and would be 4 times a year. And he credits his success in life with doing this, because it became habitude, is what he called it. It became habit for him. And the virtues were temperance. And temperance, he figured that was number 1. Don't drink to excess, because you can't be sober. You can't, all the other virtues are going to fall by the wayside. Silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. And if you just take 2 of them, frugality and industry. If we teach our kids to work hard and save their money, more than likely those kids are going to have a successful life, as will their kids. We have to bring virtues back in our schools. I want to be free. That's why I'm running. That's my sole object for running, is I want to be free. I can't be free until y'all are free, and our kids are free, and they become virtuous. We have to take our schools back. They're designed to give us critical thinking, or not to give us critical thinking, but implicit workers. our schools basically teach memorization and compliance. And that goes into my third. We can't be free unless we're healthy. And our schools were taken over by the Rockefellers, or so are our medical schools and our medical industry. If you look at our school systems, they teach us to memorize and comply. So if you're the best at our school system, the best at memorizing what you're told and doing what you're told, where do the best students go? Medical school. And that's explained so much over the last 6 years. We've lived through medical tyranny. They've shut down our schools, our businesses, small businesses, not the big ones, our churches. They shut down everything, and they don't have the power to do that. The doctors did not stand up and say anything. That's medical tyranny, because they did what they were told, and they and memorized what they're told. I've got 2 minutes, so I want to open it to some questions. Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
With Alabamians already being in an uproar with the Alabama Power, really, how much do you think the data centers will increase our power bills?
That's one of the same thing. We talk about the data centers and building all these solar farms. Those aren't solar farms for power for us. They're going to provide power for their surveillance system. And make no mistakes. Tuberville was up in Washington, D.C. and worked with the Armed Services Committee. And then when he announced his fundraiser, we collected, he's going to have more money than any other candidate, $20 million to convince you that he works for you and not people that are getting him $20 million. But at that point, the meeting, he said that we've got, in Washington, D.C., they funded he said, we got to get back up there and fund a big, beautiful bill. Big, beautiful bill pays Palantir using Gotham software that's military and intelligence agency software designed to be used against our enemies, turned on the American people that are going to be run in these surveillance centers. They're not data centers. These are our prisons. And you guys, until you guys get free, none of us can be free. And Tuberville can be stopped. He doesn't live in Alabama. I don't know why the ALGOP lets him. All they've got on him is a driver's license and he says he's voted in Alabama for the last 7 years. In the same breath, John Wall, they said, well, I know he's got a Tennessee driver's license and voted in Tennessee, but that doesn't really, prove citizenship, or that he doesn't live in Alabama. I'm Ken, freedom versus oppression.